Cool. We are so lucky to have Jay Meyers here today, and I'd like to read to you from his bio. J.B. Meyers is the founder and CEO of Interactive Solutions, a Memphis-based firm that specializes in video conferencing, distance learning, telemedicine, and audiovisual sales and support. Jay started ISI in 1996 and has built it into a $25 million company with 55 employees in offices in Memphis, Nashville, Knoxville, as well as Oxford, Mississippi, and Little Rock, Arkansas. ISI has received numerous corporate awards and recognition in the past several years. The company was named to Inc. magazine's list of the fastest growing private companies in the United States 7 times in the past 11 years. ISI was recently featured in the small business section of the Wall Street Journal. In addition, ISI was named the Memphis Business Journal Small Business of the Year in 2001 and 2003, and was the first recipient of the Kemmons Wilson, who's the founder of Holiday Inn, Emerging Business Award. In 2007, Jay published his first book, Keep Swinging, an entrepreneur's story of overcoming adversity and achieving small business success, and subsequently received the 2010 Ethan Award for Success as an Entrepreneurial Author. A natural storyteller, Jay is a sought-after speaker at CEO conferences and entrepreneurial development programs where he shares inspiring stories and practical tips based on growing ISI from 11 to $25 million during the Great Depression, a recent one. He has detailed in his second book, Hitting the Curveball, how crisis can strengthen and grow your business, reveals creative, practical strategies to achieve business success in difficult times. Jay was inducted into the Christian Brothers High School Hall of Fame in 2011 and has achieved numerous Memphis area community and civic organization awards. Meyers currently serves on the advisory board of the Chickasaw Council of Boy Scouts of America, Bancorsaw, and the National Foundation for Transplants. He is also past chairman and current board member, executive committee member of the Better Business Bureau. There's more, but I want to end this by saying he is an ardent dog lover, so he has many fans in the room. Let's give it up for Jay Meyers.
Thank you. Let's clarify that whole business of being a ball player. I stopped playing competitive ball in junior high, and that was a long time ago. I think Richard Nixon was actually a president in those days, but I do enjoy fantasy camps and things that I play ball with the New York Yankees. And a lot of people around Memphis think that's kind of unique, I guess, and I've had a lot of fun with it. That's one of the perks, by the way, of being an entrepreneur, and I can spell entrepreneur. Believe me, I can tell you there's another way to spell it, difficult, D-I-F, whatever, and tough, and the hardest thing I've ever done. But no, y'all, I appreciate it. Before I get started into this presentation on the Millennials, please be aware that we have copies of the second book here that has a chapter in it about motivating the Millennials that you're more than welcome to have. I'm not going to charge anybody for them or whatever, that kind of thing. However, I would ask you if you would consider making a donation to the Collierville Animal Hospital, Pet Hospital. I'm a big dog lover, and if you look at the last page of the book and everything, you'll realize that, you know, it runs pretty deep with me and everything. But anyway, so Millennials, and I apologize for the cold, by the way. I was in Florida watching the baseball games last week, so it's supposed to be 70 degrees, and it was 30 or 40, whatever. Anyway, Millennials, that mysterious group of people that were born, what, in the late 80s or thereabouts, and there's a window of how, you know, the years that they technically qualify, which I would assume you probably do.
94, 96, somewhere around there.
First off, I'm going to tell you, I don't know that I have all the answers to how to deal with Millennials, but I will tell you as sort of a background, I have 2, son and daughter, they're Millennials, and I'll tell you some more stories about them and then how it ties into some other things here. But a little bit of a background. In the first book, we talked about something that happened to us, and it's just kind of our history. Lynn did a great job of making us look way better than we deserve in terms of that introduction, but just as kind of a backdrop of where my journey has been as an entrepreneur and then related to this millennial thing. Started the business in '96, and you heard all the different stories in between. some recognition, some things. We built up the business. We literally went from 1996 to 2003 and had a big run-up, won to about $6 million. And it was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, one of the things that happened as a result of that big run-up in business was the marketing guy that's running the company wasn't doing such a great job of the back office. And I'm gonna make this story brief because I know I've got 25 minutes, and Lynn knows I can talk about this particular part for 45 easily. But to put it in perspective, April 29th of 2003, I discovered a theft in my business. And it's a very involved story, but I will tell you, and it's gotten a lot of publicity about it, but I discovered the theft after I was reading an article the day before in Inc. magazine, the one that gives us all the recognition for fast growth. Why did I look at that magazine? To this day, that issue, I'm really not sure. I'm thinking maybe Jennifer Lopez on the front cover might have had something to do with it. At least my wife will tell you that. But anyway, but I did read an article called The Thief Within, and it described this theft, you know, with forged checks and credit cards and everything. Anyway, long story short, literally the next day I discovered the theft in my business. To net it out to almost $260,000. That's the bad news. The good news was, just happened to be friends with this guy that goes to church with me that ran this little organization you may have heard of called the United States Secret Service. And he offered to help, and I agreed that that would be a good idea and everything for me. And we're proud to tell you that 8 years later, she is, we put her in prison and she was an 8-year sentence, 100 months. So she had a long stay in there, everything. We got her off the street, and it was a mess. But anyway, so that was 2003. A lot of stuff going on. We ended up doing the sentencing in 2004. We're just kind of trying to figure out what's around the next corner kind of deal. So for 4 years, 2003 to 2007, we're doing pretty good, but I'm the entrepreneur. I'm paid to grow the company, and it wasn't really, we were doing all right. We're kind of plateaued a little bit. And the summer of 2007, I remember just feeling something in the air. It was almost kind of like this, I don't know, complacency, just discontent of some nature, but I couldn't put my hand on it, and I really didn't know what to do about it. And then, follow me on this, out of nowhere, sort of, 1, 2, 3, 4 of my top salespeople and support people left the company. 1 week, 1 week, 1 week, 1 week. Now, keep this in mind, this is a 30-day period of time, because I'm going to tell you the rest of it. In that same period of time, you ready for this? So I have one of my lead technicians goes in the hospital for a liver transplant and never came out. Good friend goes to Gulf Shores on vacation with his family, never came back. Saturday to Saturday, funerals. And you haven't lived as an entrepreneur until you're out there trying to console your employees when your own heart is breaking. And on top of that, my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. Y'all, I thought I was going off the deep end at that point. If you read the book and everything, I mean, I called it the summer from hell. And it was. But it's interesting, you know, what's this got to do with millennials? Here's where we go with the millennial part. We had a decision to make amidst that whole mess in the summer of 2007. What are we going to do about it? And my industry, you know, the people that appreciate that and people that are in it, you know, you don't find technical people around all over the place in Memphis and everything. And if you do hire people, we had a choice. We could go out and find industry veterans to fill the gaps of those people that all left. Well, here was a moment in time that I think God smiled on us. I got my head together, even though I was so traumatized that summer. And I'll digress and tell you, I was so traumatized by that summer, I was afraid to turn the lights off in my bedroom because I was afraid of what the next day was going to look like. But God did smile on us. And God got my head back on straight and trying to move forward and working through things. And the decision had to be made. Industry veterans, fix the problem quick, move on to all that. Or maybe do something totally different that nobody in my industry was doing. Now, we talked about me being a baseball nut. Big Yankee fan. The Yankees had most of their success when they were devoted to their farm system, where they had the players being developed over a period of time. Raise your hand if you've heard of farm system. Okay. If you haven't heard of it, you really have, because the Memphis Redbirds are a farm team for the Cardinals. But then you get a chance to look at young talent, develop them, and have them work and perform and do everything your way. And they get indoctrinated. So we kept thinking about that and all, and we said, you know what? I think we're going to do something totally different. We're going to take the chance. We're going to wipe the slate clean. We're going to bring in these millennials. We're going to train them. We're going to inspire them. When I was recruiting all these millennials, I remember sitting down with them. I said, look, I'm not interested in you having another entry on your resume with me. Here's what I am interested. You could join a cause today. You could join a cause and help fix this company. And if you join us, and once we do that, that'll be a story you can tell your grandchildren. So that was part of the whole thing. I kind of had to get in their heads. And you know what? We recruited them, and they were excited. And so here's the interesting thing. That group of millennials that I hired in 2007, 4 years later, Lynn was kind of talking about that, we went from 11 to $25 million during the Great Recession, otherwise known as the worst economy in 80 years, with millennials. So why am I giving this presentation? Because I believe it. And I still think that's one of the stories, once we did that, everything, I was like, I've got to write about this because this is crazy. It defied everything in my industry to hire all these young people. Now, before you get too impressed with that, are they perfect, the millennials? All right, true confessions. I was born in 1956 on my father's birthday, and I am proudly a baby boomer. I will not tell you our generation was the greatest one before it, I believe was. And look at what my parents went through in the World War II and Depression and all that stuff. But here's the thing about what I've learned about managing millennials and motivating them. First off, get it out of your head that things are going to be perfect, and when you leave here, you're going to have the strategy to make it work. These are just stories and things that have worked for us. They could work for you, maybe they won't, but at least they'll give you some food for thought. So what makes millennials unique in comparison to past generations? Well, stop and think about the age they grew up in, technology. My son was out there on a video conference at 3 years old. He's now almost 31. He was so comfortable around, he's launching calls. I got some texts in my office that can't do that today. Not really. But you see, but early on, so technology. And then you got to also understand, and it's, I know a lot of people have a lot of attitudes about it, and I have my own and everything, but social media. Social media is a driver for them. And I mean, I communicate to our folks all the time, nothing beats this. Even with our video conferences, nothing beats right here face to face. And if you need to talk to somebody, talk to them. Meet with them. Don't text them. Instant messenger, all the other stuff, tweet, everything, So we try to look at some practical side of it. There's uses for social media that are really good. Y'all probably are promoting a lot of your businesses that way. But anyway, they grew up with that. What doesn't work with millennials? We'll start with that. Because I had to learn the hard way. Being raised, from the parents of, the greatest generation, there was just, I could picture that, as I was growing up in my career, certain things that worked in those days, they're just not going to work today. What do I mean by that? Well, first off, you can't go to them and talk about how they are the entitlement generation. You're starting out putting them down? I mean, really? Does that make sense to you? The other part of it is the way that I was motivated when I was in sales in the 70s and 80s and everything, it was all about intimidation. Make your quota or else. Cussing, screaming, whatever. But a lot of intimidation. That also doesn't work. It never has. What you also need to consider is, why do millennials join companies? In the case of our situation, for an opportunity. Not just a paycheck, but to do other things, to grow their careers. Now, I want you to also consider something with the millennials. We talk about how we had it so hard and, this and that. And walk 5 miles in the snow to get to school, or whatever your story is.
I feel bad.
Consider this. Yeah, consider this though. Consider the fact, and I can picture this like it was yesterday. Consider what the millennial generation has gone through. My son just started Christian Brothers High School in September the 11th, 2001. 9/11, he starts his high school career. So what happens 7 years later? He sees his parents scrambling for their portfolio returns and trying to figure out a way to keep a business afloat. You see people changing their lives and everything because of the economy. They see people getting laid off. Life has not been perfect for them either. And I think sometimes we dismiss this and kind of think about our viewpoint and everything, and you got to consider that for part of look at them. So millennials don't want to be us. That's what I figured out. They don't want to be us. Obsessing about work, reacting to negative kind of motivation. They're really all about work and life balance. That's a big deal. So you've got to get your head on straight as to what is going to bring them to your business, or even how to sell to them. Work-life balance, things that they're attracted to that, and not the old school days. The thing that I would say in terms of what does really work with millennials is you really have to know your audience. And what's worked for us is that I have developed, in many, many cases, personal relationships with these employees. Make it more than a job to them. Make it a career. In a career, you learn a lot about people and you build it over time, otherwise known as like the farm system. That's the reason when we hired those millennials, I was in my mind of, well, I'm creating the farm system. That's what we're going to do. But that's part of the whole thing there. So you relate to them from a personal standpoint, and you can keep them longer, number one. But number two, the relationship is deeper. When you have somebody that you have a personal relationship with, in many cases, they'll run through a wall for you because you care, because you know their spouse's names and their children's names and where they went to school and this and that and everything. Millennials really love that, and that's also what worked for us. And I know this part's probably hard for some of y'all, but because we have all this entitlement and all these, participation trophy generation, I've heard that a million. I will say that's the one part that I do have a little bit of trouble with, because I got cut off my 8th grade baseball team, and I've never forgotten that. I was an all-star the year before. How can I get cut? So you learn a lot by being cut off a sports team and everything. I think to this day, I think the millennials do have an issue with the participation trophy. And if you remember, what was it, Meet the Fockers and Parents or whatever, that show where the guy goes upstairs and says, oh, Robert De Niro goes, oh, looks over there on all this trophies and ribbons. I didn't realize they gave trophies for 9th place or something. I do think that is a little bit of a challenge, but you still need to treat millennials with respect. That works. Respect them for what they've been through. Respect them for their crazy intellect for technology, because they are the most technologically advanced generation in the history of mankind. And by the way, they're the largest generation. Baby boomers, we're now in second. It's okay.
And we're dying off.
I wasn't going to say that, Lynn. I was going to let you do it. But here are some other things, though, to kind of things that you can use in your business. When you're looking at hiring millennials, and we talked about the personal relationships, and we're talking about making it a cause and all these different things, and make it something more than a job, okay? Here's another thing that has worked for us. You want to have those millennials plugged into your business to help it grow with creativity. Because at our age, all of us, or whatever, not all of us, some of us, okay. Speaking of, on behalf of all the old people, no, you want to really make sure that you have an environment and a culture of creativity so that you embrace it, so that everybody's got a voice. Not just the owner of the company or some VPs or whatever. Everybody's got a voice. And I will tell you, you think, well, gee, that sounds great. He's giving a presentation on Wednesday morning. I'll tell you the God's honest truth. With that creative culture, my millennials have created products that have made my company a lot of money in the last 10 years. Because I listen to them. We listen to them. They're bright. Technologically, they're, off the charts. Tap into that. Tap into that part of it. And the other part I would say is coach them about some of the professional attributes. Don't dog them about the participation trophy. Just maybe forget what I just, that whole thing. But look at and treat them with respect, motivate them, and get them involved in your business. And then the other part, and this is very key. You've got a generation that is technologically advanced, that's done a lot of things, but they're restless in many cases. So you bring them into your business, you need to challenge them. I did that day one with our millennials. Our business, I'm not gonna lie to you, the business is in trouble. We just lost 80% of our sales team. I need help. Can you do this? I'm challenging you to do this. So that was also something that worked for us. And I'll say this much kind of as a summary, and I'm glad to answer any questions and everything. Millennials are the key to the future of pretty much any industry out there. They are mine at audiovisual and stuff. I mean, think about this, just a practical side of it. The practical side of it is, I'm 61 years old. I'm not gonna live forever. If I want my business to live forever or a long time, you have to be able to have the young talent in there. It's common sense, really. I'm not like hip and cool owner and everything. I got to get the millennials in. It's common sense. I'm older, and today we look at the decision makers for our technology. They look more like my son than they do me. So think about that a little bit. I would encourage you to start right now recruiting and developing a farm system. Get the young talent in. Try not to wring their necks every day. Talk to them, respect them, motivate them, and be patient. That's one of the things that's the hardest thing to do with millennial, because we have this preconceptions of how we were managed and all that. Try very hard to get that stuff out of your head. By the way, when you dial back to those days, think about how did it work? I remember a sales manager yelling at me, and he was doing this whole kind of group thing, just cussing and all this stuff, and I was like, making the numbers and everything, I'm thinking, I'm 150% of my quota, what's he yelling about? But that was the way people did things. It just doesn't work these days, y'all. It just doesn't at all. Be patient. Don't look for the quick fix. Recruit and retain the millennials, and your business has a chance to be very successful in the future. And I do believe in them, and I'll close it out with this, because I told Lynn I'd do this. Let me tell you how much I believe in millennials. A year from now, actually less, in January of next year, I'm turning my business day to day over to my son, who will be a whopping 31 years old that time. So I'm not just talking this to sell books or whatever. I mean, I'm not talking the talk, I'm walking the walk. I believe in him. He's still going to need some coaching, but I think that there are some good things that happen. I'd encourage y'all to recruit millennials. I encourage you to motivate them and grow your businesses like never before. Thank you a lot. Appreciate it. Yeah.
You said how you encourage the millennials to be creative. Do you have like a formal program at your office where they can submit and complete or whatever?
Yeah, so we actually do. We've got some Dropbox accounts and everything set up, but we also have an open forum. We do a quarterly meeting at least, sometimes more often, and we have a discussion about new products, the ideas that they have, new way. It doesn't even have to be a product. It can be a way of speeding a process up or a service or something. But if you don't have the blinders on, if you actually listen, if you put some thought into and listen to them, I'm not saying every idea is great that they come up with, but I'll tell you, a couple of them they did, we knocked it out of the park. So I think, and it was significant. So yeah, but we do have a structured, I don't think you just do it, hey, what do you think in the middle, walking down the hallway. We have the structured meetings. It's at least once a quarter, if not more often than that. Yes, ma'am.
So, I actually have started hiring a team for a new side business I don't even talk about here. And I'm hiring millennials. It just kind of happened. And I have noticed with some of the things that you're talking about, and I think one of my biggest challenges is kind of making that connection of the processes and where they need to go. And for me, the largest problem I'm having is feedback from them. So how do I encourage them to more timely manner, because I know this is probably me, I'm also a baby boomer, tail end of it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm all about the communication, so how do I get them to be on the ball with communicating with me?
You know what's interesting is what's worked for us, not a blanket statement, it'll work for everybody, is, as you can probably tell, I'm a very candid person. And if I've got an issue with you, we're gonna sit down and talk about it. And that's old fashioned, but anytime I've run into that, I'm like, you know, millennials are like anybody else. I mean, they're not that mysterious. They get emotional, they get burned out at work, some of them are lazy, but a lot of them are not. And it's your job to figure out a way to tap into that. But I'd say meeting one-on-one as much as you can. I'm not sure how many employees you got or who you're dealing with.
California, so we have to do everything by phone.
Well, you got a different set of challenges just for
Yeah,
California there. But no, but I mean, I think if you could, well, I'll tell you what, wow, I could do a little plug for my technology. Connect on a video conference.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, one real quick thing before I get off. So one of the things that also has worked for us is understanding the work-life balance issue really thoroughly, okay? And what does that mean? My young workers are scattered all over the place. I can't afford a brick and mortar office, nor do I need one in all these places. So guess what we do? We drink our own Kool-Aid there and we connect up on video for all kinds of, anything we need. I manage my business using the technology. Newsflash, millennials love that. And if you come up with new stuff all the time, here's a new software or whatever, video conference, let's demo it, let's test it. They love that. Keep in mind, this is the most technologically advanced generation in the history of mankind. They grew up on iPads and iPhones and video conferencing and all the technology. They love technology. They're comfortable with it. Ever have trouble with your phone? Go ask a millennial.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yes, sir.
I read your first book and I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
It's been a few years, but it was a good book.
Thank you. Well, it's funny. The first book, I was terrified, but I just had something that I had to say, and it was a lot about the embezzlement and some other struggles we went through as startup and everything. And I did have a collaborator who had some pretty good pedigree. He was a writer for Inc. magazine, also graduated from Columbia's journalism school, so I felt pretty comfortable he could help me. The second one, I hope you like it. That is all me. There's nobody else. So if you like it, I'm going to give you one of my cards. You can email it. If you don't, just don't tell me about it, okay? I'm still
Let's give him
sensitive.
a round of applause.
Thank you.
I thought it was terrific. Thank you, guys.